It probably is a sorry statement on how low the quality of public discourse has fallen in this country, but elsewhere too. I mean, this is the kind of thing that if 20 years ago, if you had somehow posted something like that or posted a link to it or whatever 20 years ago, in your youth, like 20, 30, 40 years ago, when you were 18 years old, it would be the end of your career.
Now, recent revelations regarding Mandelson's relationship with the sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein have been ripping apart the UK's political system. But in the US, the reaction has been quite different. Gerald Baker, Times columnist and editor-at-large of the Wall Street Journal, has been writing about this and is on the line to tell us more. Good afternoon, Jerry.
Hello.
A fascinating column, today's paper. I mean, I always enjoy reading your column, but I mean, this one's a real vintage Jerry Baker, if I may say that. Just set out, for those who might not have read it, the picture you paint of the elite, the way they operated and what the Epstein affair tells us about that.
Yeah, well, thanks, Cathy. That's kind of you to say so and to have me on. Look, obviously, this Jeffrey Epstein story is multifaceted and extraordinary in so many ways. As many people have pointed out, the horrifying crimes that he committed, the victims should be foremost in our minds. The political fallout that you've seen over there in the UK, first of all, the fallout for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, now the political fallout with Peter Mandelson and whatever may happen to Keir Starmer's government as a result. We've seen a lot of fallout here. It's not quite true that I keep reading in the British press that nothing's really happened over here. Many of these leading figures in business and academia and elsewhere that have been associated with, that have been exposed as their association with Epstein has led to them falling on their swords. Just yesterday, the top lawyer at one of the biggest law firms in the country stepped down. We've had Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard University, former Treasury Secretary in the Clinton administration, essentially having been kind of disgraced and having sort of retired from public life. So it's had all of these implications. The point I make in my column today, Cathy, is really it tries to get a slightly different one. It tries to understand what are the larger, I think, almost sort of geopolitical or sort of socioeconomic implications of the Epstein story. And I think the most important thing to me is that this is the story about networking and the network that Jeffrey Epstein built. He built this. The reason people went to Jeffrey Epstein, there were some who wanted to do some nefarious things, but most of them didn't. Most of them were not, abusing girls. And I genuinely believe that many of them didn't even know what was going on. They knew about him, and that doesn't excuse them. But they went to Epstein because he connected them. He was a great connector. He connected you. If you went to dinner, he invited me. I never took him up on the offer, I'm glad to say, because I thought he was a sleazebag. But he would invite you to go and meet you'd have dinner with the head of a hedge fund or the head of an investment bank or one of the world's leading academics or a Hollywood director or movie stars, things like that. And the story that the Epstein story tells us about the way this works is the value of those connections in this sort of global capitalist world that we've occupied for the last 20 years. These connections are vital. You get ahead of your rival by getting vital information, by knowing someone who's the very senior in an investment bank or in the government, like Peter Mandelson. You get an opportunity to pitch whatever you're trying to do, thanks to your connection with some senior figure in a law firm or something like that. And that, unfortunately, the wealth, the opportunity, Cathy, the money that's been available thanks to this kind of the explosion of financial markets in the last 20 years is off the charts. Obviously, people have always done this. This is how business has been done. But the scale of this and the fact that nobody is really regulating finance in any serious way, this kind of stuff, that to me is one of the unsung, but I think one of the most important lessons of Epstein. This is the way modern global capitalism has worked. And Epstein sat at the center of this web of networks. There are others too, but that's what he was very good at, and it's what drew people to him.
Just before we let you go, I just wanted to ask you about another story that's been creating a lot of controversy today, and that is this backlash regarding an AI-generated video published by Donald Trump on Truth Social, which depicted the former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle as primates. And it's now been revealed that a White House staffer mistakenly made the post. It's been removed from the site. What does the fact that that post existed in the first place and the reaction to its distribution tell you about American politics today, Jerry?
I think it probably is a sorry statement on how low the quality of public discourse has fallen in this country, but elsewhere too. I mean, this is the kind of thing that if 20 years ago, if you had somehow posted something like that or posted a link to it or whatever 20 years ago, in your youth, like 20, 30, 40 years ago, when you were 18 years old, it would be the end of your career. It would be literally a career extinguishing act. And now we have the president of the United States, the incumbent president of the United States, who does this. Look, I can believe, he doesn't post all of his own links. I'm prepared to believe the story that somebody else did it for him, but they did it for him, presumably believing that he was quite comfortable with that depiction of the Obamas as primates. And I'm sorry, it's a sad statement on how low the quality of our public life, our public conversation. I say right at the top of it, led by the president of the United States, just how low it's fallen.
Yeah, and I suppose, and as you say, the fact that it was assumed that he would be okay with that kind of post.
Yeah, I mean, look, President, I don't know. I mean, the president does some extraordinarily dumb things and some extraordinarily offensive things all the time. I don't know, whether Trump is a racist. He does say some things that lead you in that direction. On the other hand, he does, I've known him for a long time, and I know he moves in circles with all kinds of people. He doesn't sort of display racism in the way that he works, but he does have this capacity to say things and do things that are incredibly offensive, whether it's about women or about African Americans or about Hispanics or whatever. That's always been his personality. He has a capacity to be extraordinarily offensive, that something in his mind leads him in that direction. So, yeah, I mean, again, maybe he didn't directly post this himself, but he's posted other things that, kind of point in the same direction. And as I say, it's just a very sorry statement on where our public discourse is.
Gerald Baker, thank you very much for joining us. And Jerry's column is up online now in the paper. You can read it wherever you get your Times. It is a great read as ever.